Now, of course, we're going to get into this battle that happened between Canibus and the newcomer on the block known as Dizaster. Now, King of the Dot is a Canadian battle format online. And on June 9th, Canibus, the legendary rapper who battled LL Cool J and lost, stood up to battle a new school rapper named Dizaster. Now, Dizaster, you know, you guys, I got to talk to you for a minute, you know, but I'm going to talk to everybody, but I got a message for you, you know what I mean? So if you're listening, you know, clear out your ears and open up your eyes because this is real. You know, no surprises, just real talk. In the battle, Brother Canibus pulled out a notepad after conceding to the victory of the new school rapper. So basically, he said he lost Canibus and asked the crowd to allow him to rhyme from his rhyme book. He said he wanted to please the crowd who paid their hard money, you know, and he was, you know, was having a hard time about it because people were kind of shocked to see the legend pull out a rhyme book. You know, it was different, you know, unlikely that somebody of his caliber, you know, and his you know, persona would do that. But you had to understand what he was doing. What he was trying to do was he was trying to end the battle and then come out with this rhyme book. But instead of rhyming about things that he should have rhymed about, he started rhyming from the book of the battle rhymes, which were pointed against Dizaster, whom he said just beat him. So when he did that, it was a contradiction to the end of the battle. So technically, since he kept rhyming about Dizaster with a notepad in his hand, it was an appropriate move for Dizaster to finish him off, you know. So now had Canibus pulled out some rhymes and dropped jewels about other topics, you know, going in another direction, you know, not directing anything to this rapper that he just said beat him, things might have turned in another direction. But then again, that's a gamble, you know. But in the future, all you MCs learn something. If you lose, take the L and step off. If you gamble, you never know which way it's going to turn. Either way, you're taking a chance. Who am I to speak? I'm one of the founders of the Human Beatbox from Harlem. That's who am I. You know, I'm not going to get too much into what I've done, but I had to let you know that I'm not speaking from the hip. I'm one of the first beatboxers to ever do it from Harlem, all right? So I have a right to voice my opinion, you know, and I've done a whole lot more for hip-hop, but that's one of the reasons why I'm saying what I'm saying. But this isn't about me. I know about battling and how the rules should go. The problem with the youth today is that they're with their energy going so hard without experience, and it's messing up what we perfected originally, and it's an embarrassment. It's because the youth have been cut off from the elderly. You know, you're not seeking information from the old school artists, from the founders. You're just going out there doing what you want to do. They done with it. It's our time now. That's the wrong mentality. You have to know what we did in order so you can properly represent what hip-hop is. Number one, let me tell you some rules here. No old school rapper should get in a ring with a new school rapper. But instead, if a new school rapper wants to bring it, that old school rapper should pick a new school rapper to represent in the battle. Why? Because that's how you lift the youth up. And that's how you properly pass the torch. Just one method. Just picture that. Picture something like that happening to any other rapper of Canibus caliber or better. Why should he destroy his own reputation, take a chance like that? It doesn't make any sense. It's more than him. It's bigger than Canibus. We're talking hip-hop. We're talking about the history of hip-hop and our foundation. During the battle, Dizaster mentioned that Canibus should pass the torch to the youth and not come out here trying to hold it down and ruin his reputation, and I agree. I agree with that, but how this was done, I do not. In fact, the torch that Canibus gave to you should be snatched right back. 2, I'm going to get into why. 2, no new school rapper has the right to disrespect any old school rapper like Dizaster did by calling LL Cool J a faggot. At the end of his verses, he was supposed to be talking about Canibus. How did LL get in it? You should have first you bigged up LL for spanking Canibus, and then you smacked that LL. I say smack that because it doesn't mean you hit him. Because what you said about LL was just it don't phase LL. LL is like the mic master. You can't even go there with L. Anyway, LL is a pillar in hip hop. So basically, on his behalf, I have to say, how dare you bring it to the heart of LL Cool J like that? You know, I mean, that's just disrespect, money. You just don't do that in hip hop unless you have an ulterior motive. Now, for that alone, you voided any passing of the torch, in my view, of this battle. No torch should be given to an opportunist who doesn't have respect for the founders of hip hop. That goes to another rule. You know what I'm saying? Today's battles have no rules. And where there are no rules, there's no future. I've never seen, matter of fact, I've seen people actually fight over battles, literally deck each other, because they were not studying the history, how to come at it, how to, first of all, where's your sportsmanship? There's none. You know, it's just like, hey, come to the battle all high with your crew. You know, if somebody get too close, you might get decked, so you deck them first. I mean, that's not a battle. That's insanity. And if I was LL Cool J, I would send a hot new rapper who is under my wing to snatch the torch that Dizaster think he has. He just needs to get it snatched back. But as far as I'm concerned, Dizaster, you forfeited your win in that historic battle when you called LL Cool J a faggot. That was dead wrong. Needless to say that the battle surely put both of these rappers back on the spotlight, and that's a good thing. Even Canibus can return to drop a single. It'll be difficult for him, but he could do it. You know, he could do it because, you know, he should get that respect, that even if he makes a mistake, that he still should be able to come out and get the love, because it takes a whole lot of heart to come out there and battle within an arena like that. You know, first of all, I think Canibus, you should, and any rapper, you really should set your own tone. You know what I mean? Like, invite them to come to you. You know, but we can't do it over. You know, that's just a little advice I have. You know, and remember that he's still a very skillful MC. We got a lot of love for you, Canibus. So keep your spirit up. You know what I'm saying? And nobody can take that from him but himself. Now, Dizaster mentioned in his rhyme about Canibus being subhuman as he was battling him. Couldn't this be considered a racist? But, you know, he said it wasn't racist, you know, to say subhuman and whatnot. But in reality, it was, because the way he was coming. You know, even if Canibus displayed poorly, you can't justify your words which ill affect an entire people by the actions of one man. You drew from the theory of evolution that puts black people at the bottom and white people at the top. And from the makeup of your fans who were present, it's safe to say that you were appeasing the crowd. You admitted to being a disbeliever in God in your rhymes, but, you know, you kept it real. You know, we give you that respect. But let me tell you something. Of the most racist teachings in the history is the theory of evolution, which says that the world is approximately 6,000 years old, and that man began it as apes. And in the drawings that the apes turned into black man, and then they had a limp, and then eventually into upright white men with long beards, hairy, and with a club that goes upside his woman's head before they go to bed. So this evolution theory is not only racist, but it also puts men on top of the woman in a negative way, and it's anti-female. So all the ladies that's listening who are laughing, they really shouldn't be laughing, because this evolution theory gave way to cartoons that showed men bopping women in the head and just dragging them by their hair. You know, I guess this is what was going down in Europe back in the days. But, you know, I don't think you should support that theory. because of, the undertones, and it's just plain not true. No ape ever turned into a man. And if this theory was actually actual, then apes would be going extinct. In fact, we probably wouldn't have any apes right now, or monkeys. But, they're not even on the verge of extinction because of any other threat opposed to maybe a habitat threat, like man's machines coming, to build buildings and things like that, And if you were going to call cannabis some kind of subhuman using the theory of evolution, then you're admitting to yourself and to all your fans that you are an ape. But let me tell you what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said. God told him face to face of the history of the Caucasian race. And he did not only tell us, he gave us actual facts through Scripture. He said that you are a race because you have a beginning and an end, unlike the original man who has neither a beginning or an end. We are the father of creation. So he also went on to say this of the history of the Caucasian. They made trouble for 6 months right in heaven, deceiving the ancient original people who were holy. But when they learned just who was causing the trouble, they, as you have learned, cast the troublemakers out, they being the original man, cast the troublemakers out into the worst and poorest part of the planet Earth, which is now known as Europe. That it means the rope to binding, and here we go as he went on to say that they were punished by being deprived of divine guidance, and for 2,000 years, which brought them almost into the family of wild beasts, going upon all fours, eating raw and unseasoned, uncooked food, living in caves and treetops, climbing and jumping from one tree to the other. Even today, they like climbing and jumping. The monkeys are from them, said the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Before their time, there were no such things as monkeys, apes, and swine. The Holy Quran mentioned them as being turned into apes and swine as a divine curse because of their disbelief in Moses. And you can find references to this in Surah 18, verse 18, and 18, verse 22, or ayat 22, or chapter 18, okay? And also in the food, that's Surah 5, at the 60th verse, and also in the cow, that's chapter 2, at the 65th verse. Now, Dizaster, if you want to know the truth of it, apes were not the beginning of man, but apes, again, came out of man and are the relative and of the rebellious cave dwellers of Europe. And for those of you who feel that you are going to take over hip-hop and drive it into a bloodthirsty anti-legend theocracy, I have to let you know that what you have in hip-hop today is like a matrix. So if that's what you want, you can have it. But that's because that's not hip-hop. As you grab it, it will implode upon you because it is in a self-destructive mode of operation. So just like the Matrix, it wasn't real. So you can grab it all day. And for all of you people who are following the way hip-hop is right now, you can grab it all day too. Don't you see that it's all in Allah's plan to gather you up if that's what you want to be? Huh? Think about it. You have to step out of this sheep mentality, and you have to start to think like human beings of intelligence. That's why hip-hop, in my definition, is highly intelligent people with hidden original powers. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad went on to speak about the promise of God in the a promise of God in the book of Message called Message to the Black Man, and he said the black man must be awakened to the knowledge of self, and that he is not what the white race has taught him to be. But he didn't say but hold on. He said he must come out of his hopeless state. He thinks he is worthless. He should be brought into a state of worthness and worthiness and the knowledge and reality of his great place into which is Allah, in the person of Master Muhammad, will put him in. He is to place him on top and not the bottom, because the bottom is where he is today, and make him no more the tail but the head. He is to become the head of civilization of the new world for a new heaven on earth. He is not to rule over this people, but he is to be the ruler of self after the rule of the Caucasian world. So listen to what he's saying. He's not telling us to rule over other people. That's Allah's thing to do. Allah is the God. He's telling us to rule over self. So when people are afraid to see black people come up, you're incorrect because you're not in tune with the universe and you don't know our nature. It is not our nature to do harm to you. It is our nature to do righteousness. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad, taught the Honorable Minister Farrakhan saying that our people can remember when we do something bad so well, but we cannot remember when we do something good because it's in our nature. I wonder if it's the opposite with others, particularly the children of the oppressor who maintain the oppressor's state of mind. Let me tell you about the future of hip-hop as I see it. The future of hip-hop, the parties will no longer be at night where the sins run deep, where you can get away with murder. It will be in the daytime. And the N-words, rule number 2, the N-words, the B-words, and the blatant disrespect of human beings will never be heard ever again. And number 3, there will never be such talk of the use of drugs or any intoxicants which will remove man from the civilized state of being. And number 4, hip-hop will be a positively influential and in all of its forms. And it will be family-friendly. And the pioneers will remain as the respected kings and queens of hip-hop culture. No longer will the talented within hip-hop consider others in the game to be limited just because they want to sing or do something different along the way. And brothers and sisters, if you want to call in and make a statement, that's fine. We could take in some calls right about now. But also, I want to say that in the future of hip-hop, battles will be based upon the skills of compositions which relate to problem solving and no longer based upon how you can kill the spirit of the next rapper. Just imagine a battle between 2 MCs who rapped about improving the condition of the planet or to inspire the youth to succeed in life. And we judge them on technique. The results would be phenomenal, but the energy of the human being would not be put to good use unless we did something like that. So we need to put the energy of human beings in good use. It's not to say that when you're in a battle today, in today's world, it is meant to bring down a brother. That's not what I'm saying. As men, we should be men, and as warriors, we will be warriors. We know the game, but if hip-hop is going to stay, it's got to be in step and obey the laws of the universe. And according to the present climate and downfall of the world of Satan, which mirrors the promise of the Lord of the worlds, we should be wise and set our minds to reflect the current universal change. Switching gears in hip-hop, let's talk about that for a minute, because that's important. Of the boldest and most powerful men on earth that, gives all the praise to the God is the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And he called the Million Man March and turned around the next day and even before then and played the violin. So why can't a hardcore rapper drop a lyrical bombshell and turn around and sing a love song the next day? Had Michael Jackson chose to rock as a rapper and do an album of 24 rhyme songs, which turned out to be a platinum-selling hit, would you be able to say that he wasn't a real rapper? Do you even know the difference between a rapper and an MC? It was Michael Jackson who brought the electric boogie to the world when he moonwalked during his performance of Billie Jean at the Motown 25, Yesterday and Forever, on March 25th, 1983. He was known as the King of Pop, and he's still a king, really, you know what I'm saying? Or, you ain't going to be able to top Michael in another 20 years, But you couldn't tell me that he wasn't real hip-hop. He couldn't even, in fact, you couldn't even do that because he could do the beatbox too, and he could rap. And he did that, So hip-hop was in him. He was a child of hip-hop, It's a known fact that some of the greatest warriors and leaders of history had talents that were vastly in contrast to their warrior spirit, and that gave them the balance that they needed to defeat their enemies. Look at the history and present marching bands of the militaries of the world. Can't you see the benefit of having a diverse talent? And it's kind of crab-like to say that another MC that you're not being true to the game if you sing or do a pop record when you're an MC. You know, I understand that it's different, and that when you have your focus on someone like a particular pattern of their walk, and then they change up and you feel that they deviated. But who are you to judge what Allah created? I mean, you can't determine the direction of an MC. You know, that's not hip-hop. Hip-hop is repping where you from. And if he's from the God, then in the God is his purpose and also the how he's going to fulfill his purpose. You have nothing to do with that. So we have to start rethinking how hip-hop should be molded for the future. My advice to those of you who feel that an MC shouldn't sing or dance or do anything other than battle rap or rock rhymes is the next time you see an MC like that, just change the channel. You know what I'm saying? You see your rapper switch up, you ain't got to look at him. You know what I'm saying? You know, get on another frequency, you know, and if you're not comfortable with that, just get on another frequency for a minute, you know, but let him do himself and let's stop hating on each other, you know, and, you know, let's allow that rapper to do his thing that's going to balance him into the person that he's going to be in the future, you know. And I use the word crab-like to reflect what the most honorable Elijah Muhammad said about his people who are in the lack of knowledge itself. And this can also be applied to many other people. He said that people are like crabs in a barrel, and that when one crab gets to the top, the other crabs will grab that crab down. So if you have multiple talents, show forth your power and get your swag on. Hip-hop is highly intelligent people with hidden original powers today, but tomorrow we will not hide our power. And the Honorable Minister Farrakhan said for all of his followers that the hereafter is now. You are about to see a new world of hip-hop. And if you want to be a part of it, once again, you have to be in a new spirit. And that is just right for an all-new time. In Revelations 21:5, it is God who said, He who is seated on the throne said, this was written in the Bible. It says that God said, I'm making everything new. And he said, write this down, for these words are trustworthy and true.